I mean, you've been fiercely advocating for the president to cancel student loan debts, but really only 13% of Americans even have federal student loan debt. So is this really the best way to reach most voters? And also, what do you say to someone like me who worked 2 jobs for a decade to pay off all their student loans, just finished? Where do I sign up for reimbursement?
So let's start out with who has student loans today. About 40% of the folks with student loans don't have a college diploma. They're folks who tried.
Yeah.
They're folks who tried and life happened. Pregnancies, they were already working 2 jobs and lost one of them. Mom got sick, family had to move somewhere else. And now they earn what a high school grad earns, and they're trying to pay off college level debt. And it is crushing their bone.
And in some cases, it is making people sell their body parts in order to pay off their student loan debt, which is the story that we're going to talk about today. But in that conversation you just saw between Elizabeth Warren and Lindsey Granger on The View, Lindsey Granger, by the way, who happens to be conservative and a Republican, she's actually done a great job lately in the conservative spot on The View, basically checking Sunny Holston and Joy Behar on their liberal nonsense. She asked Elizabeth Warren the same question that most conservatives have in response to the progressive student loan debt forgiveness solution, which is, where do I sign up for reimbursement? Okay, where can I get my check? Because at the end of the day, if you went to college, you got a degree, and then you went and got a nice job and you paid off your student loan debt, you don't get anything, right? You don't get anything for fulfilling your personal financial responsibilities and your debt obligations to the taxpayer. You don't get anything. But those people who went to college and didn't finish, or they went to college and they got a useless degree, or they went and got a job that doesn't pay them a lot, they didn't thoroughly think through the financial decision that they was making before they decided to go to college, those people who can't pay back their student loan debts, or they refuse to, a lot of them can, they just refuse, they should just get a handout from the government, right? They should just have it wiped away cleanly, right? Which is why Elizabeth Warren dodged the question, right? She said, well, it's a question of fairness, right? Well, how is it fair, again, to pay off debts for people who, in my opinion, probably made bad decisions more than anything, but not to reimburse those people who actually fulfill their personal financial obligations to the taxpayer? So yeah, just like most progressives, Elizabeth Warren wants to reward people for making bad decisions. But the story that we want to talk about here today is a story about a college student who decided to sell her eggs to pay off some of her student loan debt because she claimed that she had no options. And the reason why I want to talk about this story is because I think this story is fascinating in the sense that it shows us how desperate some of these people are to pay off all this debt they have and how they got into this position in the first place. And again, I want to break this down because this is totally unnecessary, right? She did not have to get into hundreds of thousands of dollars of debt that this woman got herself in. But again, that fancy degree was just too much to pass up on for her, okay? Even though the return on investment isn't there and the degree essentially seems to be worthless. But before we get into that, I just want to let you guys know, if you like my channel, you want to support my channel, you can do so using the links in the description below. You support the Patreon, you support the PayPal, you support the merch. There are multiple ways to support the channel if you would like to do so. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into this fascinating story here. She's putting all her eggs in one basket and paying off her loans. New Yorker Cassandra Jones sold her frozen eggs for $50,000 so she could put the cash towards her $167,000 mountain of student debt. The 28-year-old told the Post she underwent 5 rounds of egg donations in a last-ditch effort to pay off her loans. Wow. So this woman was so desperate that she sold her frozen eggs for $50,000 and she still has a ton of student loan debt left, right? She still has over $100,000 of student loan debt to pay off after, right, taking the $50,000 out for the eggs, okay? Hey, you know what? Maybe this is what AOC should do, right? AOC should maybe sell her eggs, okay? And under Elizabeth Warren's plan, would this woman get her eggs reimbursed, right? I heard that women only have a limited amount of eggs in their lifetime, right? So I think this woman should get her eggs reimbursed that she sold to pay off her student loan debt. Wow. I didn't know this was a thing. I had no clue this was a thing. Despite working 3 jobs while earning her undergraduate degree and living rent-free at her parents' house, she was still $25,000 in the hole after 4 years. Then, when she decided to earn her master's degree in public health, she tacked on another $40,000 per each additional year of education at New York University. All right, so this is where she messed up. Okay, she was only $25,000 in debt after earning her undergraduate degree. Okay, only $25,000. That's not a lot, right? That's not all that much. You can pay that off, okay? Where she went wrong is that she went to school to get a master's degree at New York University that cost her $40,000 a year, okay? A master's degree in public health. Now, I just wonder, did this woman thoroughly think through and plan what she was going to do with that public health degree, how much money the job she would be able to get would pay her that she would be able to then use to pay off her student loans? I wonder, did she think through that, right? I think that she probably did it, okay, before making that decision. Because I'm pretty sure she could have went to a school that was cheaper than $40,000 a year at New York University. But with really no other options, she only had 1 month to figure out a financial plan. Quote, "I saw it as one of the only ways to be able to have any kind of money at all," Jones told the Post. "I've done everything I possibly could, including donate my eggs, and powered through and found resiliency to keep going and try to achieve and have achieved what society has always told me I needed to do to be successful." See, that's the problem. You listen to society, right? Society is leading you astray. She's exhausted every other avenue, she said, including commuting from home in California, doing undergraduate, taking out the maximum student loans allowed, selling her car, going to community college, and she was even in an early college program in high school. She was left with $167,000 in loans to pay off. So you went to undergraduate in California, which means that you going to New York University, that's out of state. We all know that out-of-state tuition is way more than in-state. So if you wanted to get a degree in public health, you should have went to a state school in California when you was going to get in-state tuition, right? Again, decisions, man, right? Like, I feel bad that you have that much student loan debt, but you didn't have to incur that student loan debt to get that degree that you got. You could have got the same degree from probably, I don't know, just as good of a school, I'm not sure, but you could have got that same degree, right, from another school, okay? Now, again, you know, the only exception to this is if she knows that, okay, well, if I go to New York University to get my public health degree, that because of the prestige of the university or whatever, or the connections, that I'll be able to get a great job that'll help me pay it off. So we'll see if that's actually the case here, right? Quote, "I wish that wasn't just for my tuition," Jones told Jam Press. Quote, "I wish that money was for a down payment for a house or to kickstart my own business." Yeah, you would have been better off doing that, right? Instead of going to get a master's degree. You would have been better off trying to start your own business, right? If you're going to sell your eggs for something that could have a positive return on investment, right? Not a degree. Meanwhile, as her accumulating debt kept her up at night, a friend first suggested donating her eggs for money. Another pal said she had made 4 months worth of wages in mere weeks from egg donations alone, convincing Jones, then 23, to dive in. Well, at least it's not stripping, right? At least it ain't selling your body. She completed her first round of donations back home in California for $8,000 before moving to New York, where she donated the rest of her eggs at the NYU Long Fertility Center for $10,000 each time. After 5 rounds of egg donations, she barely made a dent in her overall debt. The projected repayments for the school loans are $2,000 a month for the next minimum 10 years of my life, Jones said. Hearing that number out loud every single time almost makes me catch my breath. She continued, "When you're desperate to figure things out as a young adult and you have this question amount of debt from the educational system, it puts you between a rock and a hard place." Well, again, these are calculations that you could have and should have done before you went to school, right? Before you decided to move to expensive New York to go to an expensive university in the city, you should have did these calculations and said, hey, you know, what is the likelihood I'm going to be able to pay $2,000 a month after getting out of school to pay for this degree? If you would have done those calculations before you decided to go to that school, then you would have known that it wasn't a good decision, right? I mean, it's really that simple. Frozen eggs can rake in anywhere from $5,000 to $10,000 for a donor. However, the cost to purchase them, along with medical treatment, can range from $10,000 to more than $40,000. But donating eggs isn't as easy as it might seem. Jones learned to give herself hormone injections, calling the process labor intensive. Some studies have shown an increase in developing breast cancer in young donors who undergo ovarian stimulation. In fact, the first time she donated, she woke up in pretty excruciating pain despite having to start school right away. Quote, I actually showed up to orientation for NYU on painkillers 2 days after I donated, Jones told the Post. Even though they say that you can go back to normal activity, not strenuous, but normal activity within a day or so, I don't believe that. So, look, progressives are going to look at this story and say, see, this is a prime example of why you should forgive student loan debt. You try to make people like her sell their ovaries and go through excruciating pain. And I'm like, no, nobody's making them do that. She made a decision about where she wanted to go to school. She knew all this stuff, and she decided to go through with it anyways, okay? Knowing the cost. That's nobody's fault but hers, right? It's not. I feel bad for her, but it is what it is. She didn't have to go to NYU, right? She joined a sorority and all that. I'm pretty sure she had a lot of fun, right, with that $160,000 that she borrowed, right? So actually, let's read here. Even with a master's degree, Jones was only able to secure a part-time paid internship post-graduation when the COVID-19 pandemic first started. All right, guys, so you hear that? You hear that? With a master's degree from New York University, $40,000 a year degree, she was only able to secure a part-time paid internship after graduation. Part-time paid internship with a master's degree. Her degree is damn near worthless, right? Damn near worthless. Again, this is the problem. This is the issue. Quote, they took 6 to 7 months to bring me on full time through a pandemic, so I was denied health insurance, she said, which made paying off her interest accumulated loans more difficult. So it sounds like she eventually got the full-time job, but the thing is that with a master's degree, why in the world are you having to do a part-time paid internship in the first place? You got a master's degree, right? You would think that she would better get a good job coming right out of college. But again, this is what happens when you don't have any real job skills, right? A degree is not job skills. She doesn't have any job skills. And I take that back. I'm not going to say that because she said she worked part-time while she was an undergraduate. So I'm not saying she don't, but I'm just saying something's off here, right? The fact that you have to do an internship with a master's degree, again, it raises a whole lot of red flags, okay? It doesn't make sense. But this is what corporate America is making people jump through, right? Even with these advanced degrees, right? So again, why in the world would you go and get a degree like this in 2022? It doesn't really make sense to me. The return on investment is not there. Quote, the money that I was making with the work and the part-time internship or just not finding work with a master's degree for 8 months was only barely enough to pay my bills. She said, I knew that some other form of repayment had to be created, had to be done in order to try to make a dent in those loans. Jones isn't the only one struggling with student debt. The average student loan debt in the United States rings in at $57,520, according to NerdWallet. The grand total coming to $1.75 trillion. Yeah, so look, at the end of the day, what can you say? I feel bad for the girl that she had to sell her ovaries to pay off her student loan debt, but at the same time, she made that decision, and taxpayers shouldn't be on the hook for that. Okay, in situations like that, she should have considered going to an in-state school and maybe getting the same degree, because it seemed to me that going to New York University didn't really help her out all that much, right? And I'm pretty sure that she'll probably be paying off that student loan debt for the rest of her life, okay? The reason why is because of the decisions that she made, okay? It's not society's fault, it's her fault. And with that being said, she is being responsible in trying to pay off her student loan debt, even if that means selling her ovaries. People like Elizabeth Warren, on the other hand, are telling people who aren't fulfilling their responsibilities that, hey, they can just get a clean slate and have all their debt wiped away at the taxpayer's expense. And you won't get a reimbursement, right? You're not getting your ovaries back, okay? So, yeah, I found that story to be fascinating. Let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.